Hello again, and thank you for tuning in and subscribing to Fit Pet Boston Talks. This podcast interviews Boston, Massachusetts area dog handling professionals, and we chat about our lives, our dogs, and our careers. Today I sat down with Hannalore Tice and Corey Shields, co-owners of a company called Boston for the Dogs. They operate a training facility in Jamaica Plain and service the surrounding area. Corey and Hannalore have an infectious amount of excitement about training dogs, rescuing dogs, training people, and continuing their own education. You are listening to 220's Clash by the Flying Vipers, released in February 2020. John and Mark Biadet have a long history in the Boston area of playing and arranging music. You can find their newest project, Flying Vipers, on bandcamp.com. The song will play through after our interview. That's my favorite thing to say on the show is we're rolling.
Rolling with my homies. What is that from?
I don't know.
Sounds like a 90s hip-hop song.
It sounds like a 90s film. So.
It does. Rolling with my homies. My new homies. Because I just met you guys.
Whoop, whoop.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Welcome to the BFTD fam.
I was like, we're doing a podcast. I'm like, word, let's do it. Okay, sounds good to me. I'm here. Let's do it.
This is awesome. I'm going to do an intro before, so we don't have to introduce ourselves specifically. But in our conversation before we started, Corey, you said something super sweet, which was the ecosystem of Boston for the Dogs. And I was just hoping that we could kind of flush that out a little bit before we get started, just so you guys can introduce your business and we can just kind of hit the ground running and talk about what you guys do on the daily.
That'd be awesome.
Sure. I make the keywords. So, Hannalore, you explain kind of.
No, she just asked you to talk about the ecosystem.
Okay.
And I should mention, this is the first time I'm doing a podcast with two people, and Corey's the first man to be on the podcast. So this is some serious business.
Also, not only is it two people, Corey's the first man, and we're a couple that run and own a business together.
That is a thing. That's a thing that I do.
Yeah,
and it's serious, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
the dynamics is super. It's super fun, and it's like really cool to find where all of your strengths and weaknesses are, and how one person is super strong in one thing, and then the other person picks up where you left off. It's awesome.
Yeah,
so,
Corey, where everything complements each other is awesome. So we're at Boston for the Dogs. We are, like we mentioned, it's an ecosystem, and so we got our start in hiking and walking, and over the years expanded our skills into training, and so we really take that forward into kind of creating this kind of holistic approach to the dogs that we work with, and good dogs living their best lives as the best versions of themselves is kind of what we aspire and attain to. And so all of our dogs are actively working on training, and that follows through into our walking and hiking. And all our handlers are trained, and we really want to provide just a better service that is not just dog walking or just hiking, because none of those things work in isolation. They all work together.
It's fun having the balance of it all and creating this quote unquote ecosystem, right? So that you don't have to actually feel like you have to go somewhere else to get the full encompassing aspects of what you're looking for in a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And just from a purely business standpoint, it's nice to be able to meet your client's needs in every way possible, So that's really what we aspire to do is be the best business we can be for our clients and their dogs. So
yeah, awesome.
I think it's like also fun. Like we both have two different visions of two different visions that are the same, but our own visions of what we want our ecosystem to be. And it's really cool having one person that really focuses on one part of it, of what their goals and needs are for the company and our community and our culture. And then the same for me. So it's awesome.
Yeah, cool. So when did you guys start out with Boston for the Dogs? What was your year
I
of
usually
inception?
have to ask my mom I usually have to call my mom and be like, Mom, when did I start bossing for the dogs? It's 050216. Nope, that's our anniversary. Just kidding.
052713.
There you
Even though I
go.
wasn't there for the birth.
So 2013, Memorial Day weekend, actually. And it really just started as the opportunity to create a dog walking company for dogs that needed more than just a neighborhood walk. And dealing with dogs that were, bored in their home or needed more structure and management. And then also kind of dealt with, they were like rescue and they just needed more. So I created this company that offered that, which was really cool.
Yeah, cool. And as far as I know, we had this conversation earlier, so a lot of it might be repeating itself, but that's
fine,
cool
it's cool.
because we love talking, I know. But I think you and I have a little bit of common ground in that when I started dog walking, I very quickly realized that there was going to be more that
Yeah.
I would have to do in order to meet the needs of my clients. So I was wondering if you guys could just kind of speak to that whole thing as far as, really the meat and potatoes of your business is dog walking.
Yeah. And
Right,
actually,
and-
we
and-
offer a hike versus the general dog walking, too.
And that in an integrated way is I'm sure relief for the dog parents while they're at work.
Yeah.
So I think that this service that was traditionally thought of as, oh, they're just the dog walker,
Yeah.
for me anyway, it's so much more. And I was just wondering if you guys could kind of flush that out a little bit as far as what you guys do with your clients and how it is more than, the traditional, I guess, stereotype of what the consumer feels is just a dog walker, quote unquote.
Yeah, and I think for the consumer, that's pretty big. They're like, I think that my dog needs to get out for a bathroom break or stretch their legs during the day. But I think one of the biggest things is that they don't identify the lack of mental and physical stimulation could also be leading to why their dog maybe be naughty at home or choose things or is things like that. So I created this service that even on our neighborhood walks, we offer a lot more. We ask them to work their obedience. We work on sits. We work on downs. We work on working confidence on different surfaces and things like that. And then I integrated pack hikes into what we were doing so that these dogs that needed a little bit more than the normal, like general dog, they just needed more than that neighborhood walk, got that enrichment. And I think it really came down to the fact that there is a difference between the general dog walker. I'm just going to go take your dog out for a quick potty and a break and this, that, and the other thing. And then kind of these experienced and skilled dog walkers like ourselves that are providing so much more. We're providing reinforcement in the training they're doing. And we're also providing enrichment, that biologically appropriate integration into our walks and our hikes.
Yeah, and I just, I started walking dogs originally in 2009, and I worked for an uncle of mine who had a dog walking business and did a little bit of training, but we had training, but the walking was just walking. And I had a miserable time as a walker. I loved dogs, absolutely loved it. I wanted to see myself doing it forever, but I really didn't have much access to training knowledge and to bettering the dogs, and it was miserable. And also, I was seen as just the service provider. I was just the dog walker, and from like a personal standpoint, that was pretty demoralizing because I put my heart and soul into it. And so I left that world for a while, and that was the thing that really sucked me in when Hannalore and I started dating. I was like, wow, like, look at everything you do. You do it all, and these dogs are amazing, and these clients are just so on board and like
Happy.
I just saw what the potential could be in this industry and what the dogs' potentials could be, because I didn't know how to help the dogs I was handling originally. And so to have finally access to knowledge and information to better myself, and for me to have more productive days and better days, and for the dogs to have better productive days and be better dogs after I was done handling them and walking them. It was just such an eye-opening experience, and it created a ton of fulfillment in my life and in my job. But originally, I just didn't have access to that information. I literally didn't know it was out there. So when I finally had it, I was like, oh wow, this is a giant epiphany, like look how much better we can be. And now I'm so committed to that being an industry standard so that we can, rising tides raise all the ships. I want everyone to do better. Yeah. And frankly, this is a really hard job, like we do what we love, but this is not an easy job. And I want everyone to have an easier, more enjoyable time. And that comes from experience and knowledge and shortening the learning curve for people.
And not just being just a dog walker.
And not just being just a dog walker, because if you are, people will look at you that way. But if you're not, people will start to look at you like an experienced professional.
Yeah, I think that's a question that is raised frequently. I think that, what is a professional dog walker?
Yeah.
And it's basically a self-definition for the person that's, providing the service. But I do think that there are some criteria and it hasn't really been formalized yet, but I feel like people like yourselves are well on their way to making it clear, this is what we do, this is why we do it, and these are the standards that we have for not only the dogs, but also for the clients as well. And Corey just touched on it. This is a tough job,
so hard, dude.
I blew my back out in December.
We work in all weather.
Yeah,
right?
Working in all weather. It's it's difficult, and it's not for everybody.
No, it's not.
And I think that a lot of people dabble in it and try, and I just happen to be somebody that's stubborn. Yeah, I'm stubborn.
I think
I knew you were going to say that.
I think this is a room full of incredibly stubborn people, and no one knows when to quit.
Well, it makes me kind of giggle a little bit and touch on that concept is that the reason that I love what I do is that I love working with stubborn dogs because I was like, who's going to win? And I also can identify and reflect so greatly on what those dogs need, because if I don't have it myself personally, I'm not fulfilled. So how can I fulfill these kind of dogs that need more, and they need to find a way past that stubbornness so that they can feel fulfilled? And one of our things that we started with at BFTD when it was just me was I really was hypersensitive and hyper focusing on rescue because of the fact that I was working so specifically in rescue. I was the vice president of a local rescue here in Boston that was bringing a lot of dogs up in the South. And the reason those dogs weren't being successful either in their previous homes or the homes that they were being placed in was because they weren't getting that biological fulfillment and that enrichment in their basic A, life, and then B, they were only going out for like quick neighborhood walks or like potty breaks. And that's why I decided to create Boston for the Dogs, so that I can be like, I'm going to do more than your neighborhood walk. Even if I'm in the neighborhood, I'm going to do more so that I can make sure that your dog is going home and feeling fulfilled. And I think that's so important. And that's where I knew that I not only needed to combine my walking services and my hiking services and with my training services so that I can make sure that when I was walking, I'm supporting the family, but also that the family is supporting me in both concepts. So train the family so that I can support them, and then I train the dog so they can support the family.
Mm. And I feel like on the other end of it, then you have this long-standing relationship that's not only fulfilling for the dog, it's also helping the family, have that relief that they need. And then it's financially fulfilling for us as well because...
Make a living off of something we love.
Yeah. And it's funny because there's a Facebook group online, Dog Trainers United, it's called. And
I think I just joined that.
Yeah, very frequently people will post like, how do I build my training business? Mm-hmm. I'm like, start walking the dogs.
Yep.
Like, okay, you're going to make $80, $100 for a private training session. Like, you can make that in 1 week. Take the client as a dog walking client, and that never crosses people's mind because there's such a divide between dog walkers and dog trainers that there's never that middle ground where people are like, oh, it's the same thing. Because do you know why most people call when an adult dog needs training? Because they stink at walking on a leash.
Yeah. And I feel like the leash walk is one of the most important things that you can do with a dog. That's where your relationship is and the understanding. And it's kind of going in that concept, dog walker versus dog trainer. Why can't we have a middle ground? Why can't we find also and support our dog handlers, right? Educated dog walkers, and that's what we kind of tried to provide for our clients is dog handlers and not a dog walker, right? My handlers come in and Corey and I train them very, very thoroughly and help them not only with their own personal dogs, but with their clients. Corey, what were you gonna say?
And we just did 2 hours of extracurricular, enrichment with them tonight. I have some newer walkers that have come on over the past month or two that have maybe not gotten the same education and spiel directly. Like it is, the training process is a little bit fast paced, and then you're out there and you're going. And so we really try to do and prioritize these extra sessions, even if it's going over things I've already gone over, or maybe it's adding in new things. It's like I really want to support my handlers. And part of it is I want to see people training dogs, and I want to build up the industry. Either I want you to be the best damn handler possible out there, or I want you to get inspired to be a dog trainer, one of the two, or just be good at what you're doing while you're doing it. This job is sometimes just a bridge opportunity for people in the meantime, and I'm fine with that as long as you do the best job that you can. But yeah, I think that dog walking is undervalued for incoming trainers, because really what it comes down to when you're becoming a dog trainer is just time and hours and handling multiple dogs, right? And so even if you do...
Even if you fail.
Well, even if you fail, and it's really hard to bring on training clients. And even if you have a training client a day or two, that's 4 hours. How many hours are we out dog walking a day? 6,
Too
7?
many.
Too many. Way too many, right?
My dogs are barking.
Yeah.
Or it's everybody wants you to walk all of their dogs between 11 and 2.
Yeah.
I'm like,
can you be there at noon?
I literally would have to have 19 arms to walk your dogs between 11 and 2. And we do the best that we can, really. And that everybody does the best they can. But so, yeah. But that's also why Corey and I have created the pack hikes. Is like you can go out earlier and you can also go out later because of the fact that you're adding so much more.
Yes.
To our services. We add more, and Corey has really also helped develop our hikes into being very, very enriching, and supporting all of the training that we've been doing. And
where do you guys do your hiking?
So
Hannalore, talk more into the microphone.
Sorry, got it.
You can move it towards your face.
Sorry,
too.
I'm a floater. So I think we call them hikes. We wish that they were active, engaged hikes in the wilderness, but they really end up being a lot of urban hikes. But in Rosendale and our surrounding areas, we're very lucky to have a lot of green space. So we have the Arboretum, which is for our on leash. Sorry, apologize. We have Allendale, Stony Brook, Cutler Park, Lars Anderson, Jamaica
you guys
Pond.
go all the way to Cutler?
So when we have Dedham dogs and we have and West Newton dogs and things like that, it's not that far.
Right.
That's
a great spot.
It's a great spot. So so there's the pond, which has a lot more like off leash dogs, and we deal with a lot more with reactive dogs. So we tend to stick to the other trails, but even those trails are phenomenal. We also are huge fans of the golf courses in the winter.
Yes. Yeah.
Who doesn't love the golf course in the winter? Because we have a lot of dogs that we've off-leash trained on the e-collar, and those dogs love to open up and just dog. And it's so cool to be able to see them do that in on the golf course in this open space. So we're really they end up being very urban hikes, but they're something that we're very proud of, and we love it. Because some days they're on leash, some days they're off leash, some days one dog gets off leash, and every hike is very different, and we really truly base it on what are the pack dynamics, what are those skills, what's the handler skills, and what is the environment or the ecosystem of that day that is going to provide for successful setup of those dogs.
That's awesome. So those groups will change, and then you kind of just have to figure it out as you go.
I do it every morning.
Yeah.
It's like I always say that I wake up every morning and I need to have my coffee or my berries tea that I can't live without, and I play Tetris for an hour. every day, and I place appropriately which dog with which handler and which other groups. It's one of the hardest parts of my job is the first hour that I'm awake.
Barry's tea. If you're listening, she drinks a lot of your tea. So
Irish tea, right?
Just throwing out
Barry's
that
Irish
black
tea.
Irish tea. It's like rocket fuel. Hey, Barry's, like, I'm out here
let me know.
representing
What's the
you.
deal here? Yeah, I remember when we first started hiking, we're like, yeah, we're just gonna take all the dogs to Blue Hills all the time, and then
Oh my God,
and
no.
then they kind of just blew up and became so popular
Yeah,
that
we
it was
love
like,
our hikes, though.
that's the ideal. I wish we could get there all the time, but we do the best we can. And
You're saying that Blue Hills has too many people?
no, it's just too far.
It's kind of
far
too far
to be
for what
to
we
be
do
feasible
because of our demand. But I will say that a little bit it does have too many people. But for our like what we're looking for our daily services, we love Blue Hills for when we're doing more recreational hikes and recreational walks. I think what we strive to do during the week is really add in rules, structure, and management because dogs thrive on that. And we really try to provide a lot of that during the week in case it's a little bit less structured and or lax on the weekends. We know that those dogs that need that are getting that balance.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, so the population of dogs that you deal with, you like to work with the rescue / reactive dog
Give me
population.
all the bad dogs.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that and who comes to you and why and how you kind of, manage that?
Yeah, we love the rescues.
Give me the bitey dogs.
Yeah, we I think we are open to the dogs that that might have quote unquote the checkered past or whatever it might be, but we're also like very analytical, and we also understand that sometimes or oftentimes dogs who have history like that may have been also just put in bad situations,
Set up for failure,
and
just
set up
like
for
me.
failure, and we want to just be able to provide that direction for them. And also that was at the time when Hannalore started, and even earlier on, it was just an underfilled niche because locally a lot of these dogs were getting denied services, and they're doing interviews with walkers, and they'll talk a little bit about them, and
It was breed issues.
It was
really.
breed issues, yeah, because we work with a lot of pity mixes and maybe shepherd mixes and stuff and whatever, and they didn't feel comfortable taking them on. I'm not gonna for whatever reason they didn't take them on, they weren't getting taken on, and so that was an open niche that we were more than happy to fill, and work super hard to make sure these dogs were set up successfully.
And I think that something to kind of like go off of that is the fact that when I started Boston for the Dogs, I was working in very specifically in rescue, and I've never stopped. I have always been drawn to the dogs that are a little bit harder. And I think it's like relatable because I'm a little bit harder. Like I'm hard to like handle. I'm hard to like in all of the good ways, right? I'm high energy. I need structure, and I need management, and I need routine to be successful in my own life. And it was super relatable in the concept of working with these dogs that I can apply the rules that I needed to practice myself. So that's something that I kind of took on, and also my training methods is I always relate, and I'm very, very attracted to the working line dogs. Like I love pitties and bullies, and like so hard. Like they are really like the big joke is I always like to tag a type of breed to all of my employees. Like I'm like, you are a collie, or you are Corey. I love him very much, but he is a golden retriiever, and he's a great
They
golden
call me
retriever.
a poorly bred golden retriever.
Sometimes he's poorly bred,
You're
sometimes
jumpy?
he's highly bred, but that's really
No, I don't know. I think that maybe
is
like
Is
like
he jumpy?
I mean,
no, I think that like
he's just,
I'm
like,
like you're
aloof.
like you're smart under there, but
He's just, like,
sometimes you
kinda
can be
fluffy
just
and cute
unaware or
and just-
aloof, and
and he's just like
that
smiley.
that may be yeah. I'm always happy. I'm very social. Everyone can pet me.
Can I pet your dog? Yeah, so it's just like really
I get
funny.
along
So
with everyone.
if I was to pick what breed I am, I would definitely be like a little compact little staffy, like ready to go. Give me some tug. Super motivated and highly driven. And I love that. And that's what I kind of created this for. And I just felt like we were meaning me and my breed, we're kind of like being missed out on. And it's just like so awesome what they can offer. And that's what I created everything BFTD about.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that you have an affinity toward the working breeds, and then the first thing out of your mouth was the pity mixes.
Yeah.
And I feel like for a lot of folks, the working breeds would be, the Dobermans, the Rottweilers, the Belgians, the German Shepherds.
They're missing
and
that
the
really good
Corsos.
breed.
And I think that our exposure to social media, I think, really has ruined it for pit bulls. Because, people just hang out on the couch with them all day, which is cool. Like,
It's
some
cool.
of them
I'm
can
lucky
do
you
it.
have that dog, but-
Some of them can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like you're saying, they are actually a working dog. They're not a toy breed. They're not a companion breed. They're not, they're working, they have those lines, and that was bred into them. And I think with our current culture, it's kind of shifted towards, oh, my dog is such a couch potato and he's a pit bull. And there are a few people that have that experience with their dog. And all of a sudden that becomes like the expectation when somebody gets a pit bull, that it's just going to be this really super friendly family dog, maybe doesn't like other dogs, but really just wants to be on the couch and hang out all day. And, my sister has a dog like that.
Yeah. I've had
she's
one or two dogs like that,
she's said to me, like, Leah, I'm so lucky.
I'm
like,
blessed,
yeah,
quote unquote.
but I'm glad that you said that, because they are working dogs, and it's difficult because we don't know their genetics sometimes, because they're coming from a rescue environment.
Or poorly bred backyard breeders or things like that. And that's, I think, where
overbred,
or underbred or whatever you want to call it. They're just
any dog, like all these lab mixes are a whole other thing. It's like, there's not a lot of consistency, but there is high energy. That is pretty consistent, whether you can pin it down to exactly how they'll behave. But, also the other thing on social media that you don't see is maybe there are just purely couch potato pitties, but also there's the whole amount of pitties that are maybe dead, asleep on the couch, passed out. But what did it take to get them there? That people are not talking about, like how much did you have to run them? How much tug did you have to play with them? How much work did it take to get them there?
Or how much were they looking out the window all day, driving themselves
like,
crazy?
Driving themselves
Yes.
crazy, yeah, 100%.
And now
Up in
you got
neighbors,
home, and
right?
they're so tired that
It's
they just
actually-
pass out.
Yeah, and I love that. Actually, so we were talking about this personally before we were recording a little bit. Somebody that we really not aspire to, but we love listening to is Jay Jack. He has a really cool podcast also, but he talks a lot about gameness. And he's the first person that I've ever been really able to listen to and talk about. And he talks about so honestly, like, y'all love your fucking pitties. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear, but y'all love your pitties. But at the end of the day, genetics is genetics. These dogs are game dogs. And he always talks a lot about some of them would go through the wood chipper. It was one of my favorite podcasts I listened to him, is about how they'll go through the wood chipper for you because of their like dedication to you, but also what they are, and that's why I love pitties, is they work so hard for what they are, but also they'll work so hard for really bad things if they don't have direction, right? Super smart, intelligent people or high drive people will also do the same thing, right? You get bored and you find something negative to do. And pitties, for me, why I love them, I'm an ADHD kid. I have dyslexia. I've also a couple other LD issues. I find that I'm so highly intelligent in certain things that if I don't have direction, I find something negative to do. And I feel relatable to pitties, and that's why I consider them a working breed, because they need a task, they need a job, and they will also work so incredibly hard to accomplish that.
And like, I'm just very much like
A golden
dog. Well, a golden, but I'm very much just like a dog nerd, and I'm constantly like researching the history and lineage of dogs, and what they were originally bred for. And I think that it's such a disservice to deny breeds what their backgrounds and what their original purposes were. For, like no one is going to deny a retriever or a lab is bred to retrieve. Like no one's going to say, oh no, I just have a couch potato retriever. He doesn't like fetch. No one's going to deny that. Or, my German short hair pointer doesn't like to go flush things.
Or when a border collie or a cattle dog or an
it's
Aussie nips children because he's trying to bring them
or
to the
herds
kitchen.
them. Yeah. But, it's like, oh, if it's a pity, no, it has to just be a couch potato. And like, that's just... That's
setting them up for failure.
And it just makes it so one-dimensional. There's so much more. They're a really complex being, and channeling each breed's drive. And Hannalore mentioned earlier, like try to figuring out how to fulfill them biologically based on what they were bred for, and it's like that is a way to create less conflict with the dogs that we own. Like understanding them and understanding what they were bred for, and figuring out, what they like to do, and that's really the way to build a conflict-free relationship, by figuring out what they like. Like our dogs figure out what we like all the time. And we need to figure out what they like, and it needs to be about them. And I'm super. I love their intensity. I love all types of breeds, but yeah, we
love their intensity because you love me.
Yeah, I'm a lab, so I like intensity because I'm just
You're not a lab.
I always say there's like two types of whatever.
They're pretty interchangeable.
I guess it depends on the day.
I always say there's two types of labs and retrievers. There's labs and goldens, and there's stoners, and those are just like aloof, and there's the stoners, and they're aloof, and they're kind of lazy, and then there's like
blondes or chocolates or just blondes.
Blondes, mostly blondes. Blacks, the black labs are workers, but and then there's the athletes, and
they love to work.
Yeah, they love to work.
Yeah. Obviously, we talk about breeds a lot. It's like a weird.
I talk about breeds a lot too because we have more purebred dogs, I think, than you guys.
Yeah.
But I have to say we interact with a lot of labs. And I think I never really knew why people were so gung-ho about labs. And then I started working with them, and I'm like, oh, these dogs are really amazing.
Yeah.
They will drive you insane.
Mm-hmm. Till they're like 3.
Yeah, but I mean, I work with this one lab. I've talked about him before, and I see him pretty frequently, and he was bred by a guy. I actually called him up, and we talked from the phone for way too long. But he's in upstate New York, and he has...
Upstate where?
I don't know.
Oh, God.
But he has...
Is it like real upstate?
Honestly, I don't know the name of the town.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but...
No worries at all. But, he's describing... First of all, his dogs are dirt cheap. He sells... He's got a great breeding program. Super nice guy.
Sounds like he's breeding field labs from the Hudson Valley.
That's exactly what's happening. He has
I know those types.
1,000 acres of private land.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's
New York people.
But it's private land. So
love it.
He's like, yeah, my dogs hunt 60 days out of the year, and
they're in kennels the rest.
And they're, so they're here he is breeding these dogs, and then here one of them is in Winchester with me. Okay. So it's like it's very, and this dog is, he's very frustrating on a lot of levels. And I'm going to speak for him and then like 10 others that we also handle that have similar temperaments. But, it's one of those situations where you're like, this dog is really frustrating, but he's also so awesome in so many ways. And I think if that could kind of wrap up a breed in a way, there are a lot of breeds that are like that. And we're interacting with labs a lot more, especially lately. That it's something that I've definitely picked up on. And also very kind of keenly noted the dedication of the breeder and the price of his dogs. To offer a bred dog that is legit, like I could title this dog.
That's awesome.
That's unreal.
Like, yeah. I mean, you teach him something once, and he's
literally retain it.
It's just, it makes me wonder, like, my guy who's more frustrating, and it takes a lot more, and I'm gonna do stuff with him too, and it's not like I've given up on him or whatever. But then you deal with this dog, and you're like, oh my god, I just taught you to bark once.
These
and
perfect
like,
laps, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, it's just crazy. But like you were saying, it's just learning about breeds and interacting with them is definitely been part of my journey too. And I think because we're a little bit outside of your sphere here of Pityland, but we get our fair share. We get our fair share. One of the dogs that we recently have started working with is a bred pit bull, but it's a bred pit bull, but she's a mutt. Like,
yeah,
super great. Yeah,
there's a lot of that. There's a
well,
lot
I mean,
of that.
I think that for me, I wish that the pity world had more pure dogs, because there's the American Pit Bull Terrier that is full drive and just incredible, beautiful athletes. Our Layla is what we wanted to be in an American Pit Bull Terrier, and she's just incredible. And then there's these Staffies, which are just totally being missed out on as being perfect little creatures. They're small, they're stacked, they're just filled with drive, but they're just so affectionate and fun, and it's really fun. Again, I talk a lot about other trainers that I have big, giant trainer crushes on, because I feel like we're better together. Jen Banks out in Western Mass has Moon Pie, and I have big crush on that dog. And she just had a litter, and it's just watching these little staffies.
Does she also breed Goldens?
No,
okay.
She doesn't. She actually didn't even breed. Moon Pie was her dog, but she actually had a breeder that helped like yelp those puppies and things like that. And she did end up keeping one of her Moon Pie's Rhubarb, I think is what she's named it. But she's like the coolest dog, and it's really fun watching her shape as a puppy all of these cool things. And I just love Staffies. I feel very connected to Staffies. So,
well, you can't not talk about bullies too.
Yeah. I mean, then American you got your bully,
bullies,
man.
Yeah.
So, tell me about your favorite bully. Do you have one that has changed your life?
Well, yeah, I did. I was telling you about him earlier. I had a dog that I was totally non-manageable before I had really had any experience training dogs, and he was a dog that I brought to Laurie to help me. And he came from down here actually in Dorchester at the MSPCA, and he was a pit.
Yeah.
And I think he
Full
probably
drive,
was
man.
I think he probably was bred just by the look of him.
Yeah.
Not correctly, most likely, but yeah, and he was a working dog 100%, and I didn't know it at the time. I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand why he would play fetch until he couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And
as J Jack would say, through the wood chipper.
I mean, insane. Like, I thought he had heart problems, actually, because he would play to the point where he would be like, so like he was hot, and and it was insane. But yeah, I love the breed, but I also think that I don't understand, and maybe you guys should shed some light, but I don't understand why there are so many pit bulls in the rescue, and how we can manage the unnecessary breeding of these dogs, because we don't have a bunch of golden retrievers that are badly bred in the rescue system.
Stigma.
Like, what's happening?
So hard.
What is happening?
I think it's stigma, and also, I mean, just from like recently, we've gone to Florida and we've gone down south, and I just think their overbreeding down there is just for obviously years and years just been such a massive epidemic, and they don't get adopted down there. And then there's a ton of breed restrictive legislation, so they all come up here, and I think that they often struggle with city life, and then on top of that, like they're not well bred, and
genetics, baby,
and so they have a lot of variability in maybe the way that they behave, and they're. I'm very honest. Like, I don't think they're for everyone. I think they're for experienced people or people committed, to learning. That actually goes back to. I think you agree with this, but I always say, the path to, I think the path to lessening rescue, which I think is everyone's goal, is better breeding, right? And breeders being held to a higher standard about how they breed and for temperament and the physical features and then who they breed out, who they adopt out to, who they will sell dogs to. I think these dogs came from somewhere. They didn't just magically appear. And if we want to lessen, the amount of dogs in the shelter, and obviously I do understand a little bit of economics, that there's just a demand and people will fill it. But, I think that it starts with better breeding, and it starts with, breeders really being selective about it. And I think that, unfortunately, that it's just so rampant in the South. And
And it comes down to education and, like you said, economics. Is that so? As somebody that the reason that I love dogs, besides being grown up with labs and stuff like that, my first rescue was a pity that my sister and I were driving down the road in Georgia, because I was teaching high school biology down there. Was a pity, and I found her in the woods, and was covered in fleas and ticks and whatever, and I named her Anya, and she was a pity. And everybody that I was like, they're only bred, all the acquaintances that I had in Georgia, they're like, oh yeah, they're bred for breeding and fighting and all this stuff. And those were people that were actually doing that. And it was a big eye moment for me, because I got this dog into my house and she did none of those things. None of them. I was like, what are you even talking about? Like, this is a dog that needs to be advocated for. And I neutered her and all that good stuff, or spayed her. So I think it's just it really comes down to is the lack of education, a stigma for the breed of like whatever you think that you get from owning a pit bull. And, it really sucks, because these are a breed that need to be advocated for, and they need to be placed appropriately, because they aren't for everybody.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear you say, Corey, a few minutes ago about how, because I think a lot of times in the rescue world, the solution is, well, we need more money, or we need more rescue, you're like, we need better breeding. That's, how that is awesome. I mean, to have two really kind of polar points of view come together is refreshing, because that really is a solution. Is if people want dogs, they have to get them from breeders that are going to put that time and effort and work into having a solid line, and making sure that all their health clearances
tested.
are coming through. And then breeding for temperament, you can have health clearances come through all you want, and all of a sudden you have a dog that's a psycho.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And being able to say, okay, making those selections if needed. And, that's just such a refreshing thing to hear from people that work in rescue. I don't work in rescue at all. It's just such a refreshing thing to hear from you guys.
I'll promise you that not everybody agrees with us.
Yeah. And
well,
like,
that's good. I'm glad. I hope they're listening.
I feel like if I'm not pissing somebody off every day, then I'm doing it wrong.
Well, I mean, listen, someone's going to get pissed off no matter what you say. So it's like, you might as well, speak your piece. But, I'm like such a pity nerd, and I follow, so many working and hunting line.
Really well-bred dogs.
Really well-bred. But they're working pitties, and they hunt, and they do all types of stuff that, might be unpopular or whatever. But like, that's fine. And I'm fine with that line existing. And I would just, if you're going to breed, pet dog oriented pitties, then make sure that you're breeding appropriately for temperament for when you're going to place them, if the household is going to be a pet dog household. And then obviously if they are a truly working line pitty, they need a separate temperament. They need the kind of true original temperament, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that's the purpose, and that's the fulfillment that they're going to get, and that owner is going to give them. And that at the end of the day, that's the biggest thing. And setting these dogs up for success by breeding them appropriately so that they can be placed appropriately.
And I think that sorry, I kind of like lost. I got caught up in that, but I think that going back into the breed appropriate stuff is also making sure that you're breeding for that specific temperament. And I think that's really a big thing that's being missed in a lot of like Massachusetts pets being rehomed. And I was like, and they were like, my dog was really cute and this dog was really cute. And I bred them, even like same breed or whatever. And I was like, well, are you really breeding for what you want your outcome of a dog to be? And actually, one of our really good friends and clients the other day texted us, was like, hurry up, turn PBS on. And it was the PBS or Nova special called Dog Tales. And a really big, I keep talking about it because I really feel like I was missing out on not knowing about this project. So I'm like quick to identify that I should have known about this. But there's this really cool project, and it has to do with foxes and the gray fox. And I think it takes place in Russia. And they have like 2 barns and multiple generations of
this
foxes.
is an old project.
Dude, this is an oldest project, and I feel like a dum-dum for not knowing about it, and I just don't know why I didn't know about it.
Yeah, it's like a sociability thing.
Dude, and it was like so awesome, and again, I'm like beating myself up for weeks on end about why didn't I know about this, but it was just like so freaking cool to watch these like generations of foxes that were antisocial being bred, and then social and social being bred together, and how after only 4 to 5 generations you created a pet fox.
A dog, yeah, basically.
Basically.
Curled tail, different face, and black and white markings. 4 to 5 generations. That's crazy to me. We are not doing anything different with poor breeding. Just because you have a pretty dog and you breed it with another pretty dog, if they have aggressive tendencies, you are creating aggressive breeding. And it sucks that people aren't not fulfilling that biologically genetic appropriation for breeding, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like also it's a big deal because people don't know that when they're going to the rescue.
Yeah.
You know, they have no freaking idea. They have no clue that like, oh, you know, there should be some, you know, I don't even know. I mean, my brother and my sister rescued adult dogs, and they just got lucky, I think, is the bottom line.
My first dog was literally a gift of dogs. He was like, I found him in a bush in a trailer park, and he was a rescue, and I love him, but that's not how they all are.
Right. And I feel like we were talking earlier about, you know, the consumer, like somebody that doesn't really know much about dogs, but they might like dogs and they might want to, you know, have one as part of their family. You know, having a way to communicate with them as professional dog handlers, like that's really the whole point of this podcast, actually.
Yes.
Is just to be able to say, okay, here's what the people in our area are saying and doing. And not only are we saying and doing these things, like we're making a living, you know, making sure that the things that we've learned are being implemented and you know, reproduced over and over and over again.
And advocating for the people that reach out to us, you know?
Totally. So, you know, that's something that, you know, I'm really passionate about is making sure that somebody who might not have so much information can have a solid source. Because like, what do people that don't have much information about dogs do? They post on Facebook, dog breeds, go, hive mind, let's hear it. And, you know, and I'm, you know, some of my Facebook friends.
And then everybody's like, have you checked out this rescue? And we're like, and I just smacked my face. And I was like, how about we ask these 8 questions? What are you looking for? What color? What size? What temperament? What energy? Like, these are really important things that people forget to think about.
But it's almost the same thing as putting online.
What color shoes should I wear?
No, I have $120,000 that I can invest anywhere. Right. Hive mind. Go. You know what I mean? I have the next 10 years of my life.
To invest, we're down.
Yeah, I have the next 10 years of my life and I can do whatever I want. What should I do? And literally that's what you're saying when you say, what should I get for a dog? Because that is going to dictate the next however many years of your life and how you're going to spend it. So if you don't know what you're getting into before you buy the dog, adopt the dog, rehome the dog, whatever, it's just funny to me because it seems to be, when pets are concerned, it's like the advice comes shooting in from everywhere besides where it actually needs to come from. I had a class the other night with somebody that said, oh, well, my friend said this, or my friend said, okay. I'm like, okay. Cool. I said, put your dog into the crate.
Yeah.
I said, let me get my dog out.
Yeah.
My little reactive dog, and did like,
I love your reactive dog.
2 minutes of like pure obedience. And then like I sent him
relationship?
and I sent him to his crate from like 15, 20 feet away. I said, listen, I'm like, I don't like tooting my own horn. I don't like selling my own stuff. I said, I don't. I'm like, but can your friend do that with their dog? And she's like, no. I said, stop it. Just stop. I'm like, I don't know everything. I'm going to freely admit that. But if I don't know, I'm going to find out for you, and then we're going to solve this problem together. But stop listening to everybody else and start listening to people that actually, yes, the hive mind. Oh, it drives me so crazy.
Yeah, and I love the idea of podcasts in general, but I love the idea of what you're doing because, I try to be as understanding with people as possible. And frankly, a lot of things come down to like, you don't know what you don't know. And so if you're hanging out with a lot of people that don't know that they don't know, then that just perpetuates, right? Like, and so, we're here trying to educate so they know what they don't know. And so that they want to do more research and they want to figure things out, or at least we've given them a source of information and they can do with it what they want. They can ignore it, but we've put it out there into the world, and we're trying to disseminate this information, reasonable, responsible information as much as possible. Because I think, and I love this because, the more that you talk to people, the more you find out, especially in industry or any topic, is you find out that you want more of the same things than you think you do, right? That differences are often exaggerated, and when you talk, you go, oh, actually, we all want the betterment of whatever the thing is. In our case, our pet world, our dog world industry, we want it to be better.
It was funny because I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was talking about how if you put a blind list of things that you cared about and the level of importance, which I actually ended up taking a quiz very similar to this, and it showed that a lot of people politically, not that I'm going to talk about politics, I promise, what you're actually more on the same page than you think you are with others, but you've created this dialect in the world of this is who I'm supporting and things like that, and you forget about it. You start hyper-focusing on who you're supporting instead of what you're supporting. And I feel like that's sometimes relatable in the dog world because sometimes we end up in different camps instead of just supporting that we all have different ideas or different ways to get the same results. And what our goal is and should be in the dog world is the betterment of the dog, the betterment of us with our dog, and the relationship that we have with our dog. So I think that that's been a big thing for me and Corey in Boston for the Dogs, even of late with some changes that we've had in our company, is that we should not be held to one style. And that's something we pride ourselves. We love everything. We actually train the dog in front of us, and we don't train a dog a style, and that's something that I really have brought in from our most recent even experiences, I guess.
Yeah, and I would say, I'm purely speculating, but maybe some people, dog world specific, are either afraid to give hardline advice or really voice their mind, and the fact maybe they'll lose a client or maybe it's unpopular. But oftentimes ideas are just unpopular because not enough people know about the idea. And so when you really advocate and spread a standard, right, that we're trying to aspire to, that's a little bit of at least in our industry, because there's not necessarily a hard line standard of what a professional is. But, to me, a professional is someone who has a standard of what they'd like to see the industry or the world look like. And yes, it may be unpopular. You may feel like, oh God, I might rustle some feathers with this. But at the end of the day, you will be more knowledgeable, and you will be looked at as someone who has knowledge by holding that standard. And
you know. And also that's something that I appreciate about different people that come into my life, and you as particularly is that I love being able to sit in a room with three meaning me included, three separate people that have different backgrounds in our dog worlds and different ways and places that brought us to this one room, right? We all have all of these really cool experiences. And we also have different opinions on probably the same thing, and it's totally fine.
Well, and I think that the big thing between us is we work our asses off.
Fucking hard, dude.
You know, there's really no shortcuts in this business.
No
and
way.
That's something that I'm glad I didn't know getting into it, because I probably would have walked away. But it's turned into, you know, we talked about stubbornness before, and just...
I asked Corey to go to work at 8:30 this morning, and it was like really difficult for him.
It was painful. I was like, no, but I need to be there at 7.
I was like,
no,
you
but
don't,
you
babe.
own the company.
Can
Like,
we
you
have a cup
just-
of coffee together?
You can go in at 8:30 if you want. And I'm like,
But I can't.
But
And I was like, but you can't because I haven't taken a shower yet.
And it's, you know, it's relentless. There's nothing there. And when you're working with a living human being, I mean, not human, but a live being, they don't care if you're tired.
It's a
You know
living
what I
being
mean?
that is
And-
also, you are just direct responsibility. They don't get to make their own choices
And
of what they get to do.
I would say like there's a little bit the double-edged sword is that they don't care. Yeah, and they constantly require, you know, input.
They're need-based and they
They're
don't have
need-based.
feelings.
No, but
I have
you know,
so many feelings.
and yeah, a little bit, you know, but a little bit is like, yeah, basically anyone who starts a small business, oftentimes it's so simple in the beginning, you know, and then the more you learn, the more you realize, oh God, like this is 1,000 times harder than I thought it was going to be. And then, yeah, you become so emotionally invested. But also, you know, at least for me being in the dog world, I think I honestly, maybe a couple relatives, maybe a friend or two of mine had dogs growing up. I actually was not around dogs too often. But the second that I started working with dogs, I went, oh, I'm externally motivated. I'm really motivated by this being that
And their
have
success.
I have to care for and support and love and wake up for because their needs trump mine. And, you know, that was a big source of motivation for me. I got to get up at 6 a.m. and let my dog out. And it bettered my life because of that. And, you know, it's for some people that might be really difficult. And some days it is difficult. I by no means enjoy getting up at 6:30 in the middle of a blizzard to go let my dogs outside. Oh, you know.
He's lying. He actually loves it.
I do a little bit, but Sundays occasionally I don't. But you know,
It's like, are you okay out there?
No, he's
Looks
just trying to
good.
find a reason to use his monster snowblower. Don't even listen to him.
And I also feel like with my own dogs, they're so reliable, but when I'm caring for other people's dogs, it like brings this whole other sense of like stress on me, you know, and it's totally, you know, it's just like it's not the same as taking care of somebody else's children, but it is in the same ballpark.
Well, you
I'm
can't
gonna
put
put
somebody
it in
else's
the same,
children in a crate.
No, and I'm going to put it in the same ballpark because I feel that level of stress as if I'm, you know, taking care of a child. But I do feel like that's something that a lot of folks don't, you know, really realize getting into it. And like, I think I'm still doing this because I'm stubborn. I think I'm just
You're speaking
stubborn
to the
as
choir,
hell.
babe.
And it's like, I am going to do this until, you know, I can't do it anymore. And that may come sooner rather than later, but I have found something in my life that I love doing, you know, and that's,
I think
what
it's
keeps me going anyway.
Also, like that whole saying, like you never work a day in your life when you're doing something that you love, is total bullshit.
Yeah, I don't agree.
I'm freaking exhausted. I'm so fucking tired. And
that's total
it was
BS.
interesting. We just hired another trainer, and she looked at us the other day and was like, "You're still here?" And I was like, are we not supposed to? Like, it was just like so interesting because she has had previous experiences working wise where her employer wasn't always there. And I was like, so unless we're traveling, we are here. We are here all the time, and I love being present. I love being part of everything we're doing. Maybe it's a control issue, but
No, I think it's because you found somebody
I
that's
love-
along for the ride with you.
yeah, no,
You know,
I mean,
you don't-
Corey and I,
That's
Corey and I-
huge.
Corey and I, like, I mean, let's be real. Like, being in a relationship with somebody that you love and are in a relationship with outside of work is never the easiest thing that you should ever do, and don't do it. But I am happy that I did, because he has taught me a lot, and he also brought something that I would have never brought to Boston for the Dogs. He, like, you know, I would have never been able to do this independently in any way, shape, or form. So I'm always so thankful, and I joke a lot, and I want to make sure that it's definitely a joke, is that it is hard being in a relationship with somebody that you also work with, but it's also really rewarding. It's really fulfilling, and it's really valuable and important to have somebody that is equally passionate in the community. Biggest thing for me is the community and the culture that we've created, and then also the understanding of the dogs that we bring on, because we don't bring the easiest dogs on, you know, and having that partnership with our dogs, our clients, and each other as partners is really valuable.
And one of the things that I think the biggest motivator is our similarities, where, you know, when I saw what Hannalore was doing, I just went, I am so down. I'm in this. Like, I'm so on board for this mission. Like, let's freaking do this.
Yeah.
And of course, running your own business is difficult, and no matter what size it is, and you never know what difficulties may come each day or each week or whatever, you know. But I'm so committed and to this mission and to what we're doing, that, like, you know, yeah, sitting here, I'm just like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and it's late. It's late. It's not early.
Yeah, it's late.
It's too
And
late.
but
it's
you know,
fine.
I could literally
I just
talk.
decided I'm not coming in till 9
I could,
tomorrow.
I could, but like I could talk literally forever,
Yeah.
and I love meeting other professionals or anyone in this industry who loves to talk dogs, because literally I'm like wide awake right now. I could just do this for hours and hours.
Well, so because the fact is that we're not just here to make like our dollars. I hate even saying that, but like you and I are here because this is a passion project for us. Like, we're not even passionate for the company that we keep, but we are literally passionate to learn more for ourselves and for the dogs. And I feel like at the biggest end of the day is that I think that we are here for the dogs. And that's really, really valuable. And we love our clients. Love you guys. But at the end of the day, even I tell you guys when you're in my first lesson, it's like, cool, that's what you want, but is that what your dog needs? And we're here for the dog needs. And we love educating ourselves and being and going to seminars and talking to other people and learning outside of our comfort zone, because you can't ever get better by staying in your bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I have a very similar home life balance as you guys, and there is no work life balance
None.
in
There's
our
none.
in
We
our
keep
life.
pretending that we're gonna find it. And
Yeah. If you want to tell me your secrets, you can.
We don't have any. We are going on.
It's called couples therapy.
on a weekend vacation. It's the first one that we've taken in like 18 months. So you know that's
enjoy.
you know.
Yeah,
but
enjoy.
you know, I think that there's also something to be said for like living the everyday and being like totally freaking cool with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, like you guys found each other, you're doing what you enjoy doing. Is it like rainbows and unicorns all the time?
Never.
No. But like, is there anybody else that you'd rather be doing it with
Nope.
it? Like,
Big nope.
that's the way that I look at it. Like, you know, with Laurie, I'm like, yeah, we're freaking strange. Nobody gets this. Nobody.
Corey, are we
like,
strange?
if somebody walked in, you know, they'd be like, like they look at us like aliens, you know, because
you
it's
okay?
Well, you
it
got
is-
to meet my best friend Rachel, and you missed my other best friend Emily because she wasn't here. And it's they're just here for the ride. They're like, y'all are fucking weird sometimes, and I just like check out. She's there when I need her, and the other times when I'm just like rambling, she's like, "You done?" And I'm just like, "Oh, thank God I have you."
There's also the whole other side where I go, you know, even on the hardest day, even on the coldest, hottest day, whatever, you know, when you're out, I'm like, but this is not an office
It's not
or
awful.
traffic.
or traffic.
I don't know. Don't
Although
tell my
it's
walkers that, because
traffic.
my walkers really would like to like pick up Jamaica Plain traffic and throw it into the river. But that's everything. But anyway, but yeah, it's a thing that we love, and we love doing it together. And again, I started it by myself. And then Gian, one of my my lead walkers, he's came on, and then Corey came on, and I'm just super thankful for the people that have supported me along the way and my good days. And also, guess what? I'm not perfect. I don't ever want to be perfect. I think that people want to be perfect. They're doing it wrong. And I really do listen to the feedback of my failures, and I will consistently try to grow from those. So
yeah, and also the thing that drives me, I think that just motivates me to keep waking up, and is on top of my passion for the dogs that I work with, is also like there is so much to learn.
So
like,
much.
I know 0.00001% of what there is to know about dogs and different areas of dogs and different training styles and breeds and like whatever. Like, there is just so much to learn that, like, if you are someone hungry to seek information and knowledge, like, there should be no shortage of learning opportunities.
No.
From the dogs that you handle and walk and train every day, to any training styles and seminars or whatever it is, sports. Like, there is just there's something for everyone here. Like, and the amazing thing is that this is such an explosive and phenomenal industry to be in right now. Like, take advantage of it. There is so much to learn and so much to do, and so many dogs to go around. Like we are not a competitive business in the sense of like the market is huge. Like, just like there's something for everyone.
Find the
There's
right
dogs. There's dogs for everyone. There's people that get along best with a type of client. Like, this is a very like, you have to care.
It's a niche industry.
It's a niche, but like like you have to click with your clients and click with your with your dogs, and like they're it's endless.
And that's probably going to be a topic for our next podcast next Thursday.
We've also, just so you know, that we have 1 million podcasts that we've now decided to do.
We're now returning guests.
She's like,
every
oh
week.
my God, Hannalore and
This
Corey
could
can
go
talk
on
about
for
so
on and on.
much, because we are chock full of knowledge.
Yes, but with that, I think we should rappy pappy
Totally.
for tonight. Thank you guys.
No.
Well, we need to leave more for the future.
I
And
know.
thank you guys so
We-
much.
yeah.
This was so awesome.
This was awesome.
This was
And
unbelievable.
Also,
Thank
I'm
you
just
so
going
much.
to challenge you a little bit, okay?
Please do.
So my biggest thing is that when I lead from this is, so we are actually from different industries, right? I think it's really, well, we're in the same industry with different backgrounds, right? What is your biggest goal at the end or in the middle or the beginning of this project that you want from it besides connecting people?
That's actually a really good question, and it was one that I was thinking about today. But I would love to be able to be on like a big public broadcasting.
Yeah. I'm coming though, just so you know.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Not really.
And kind of create a catalog either through this podcast or, supplemental material, and be able to have a resource for dog owners to be able to plug themselves into immediately and know these people are professionals. This is what they have to say. These are the services that they offer. And unfortunately, that sounds really exclusive, but that's exactly what I would love to do. So, I think, my biggest, I'd love to be on Radio Boston and,
that'd be awesome.
and let people know what's going on in the Boston area, because literally everybody that I interview, I'm just like, holy cow, this is a rich, rich industry. But for every amazing person, I think that there are also people that are freaking hacks.
For sure.
So, and I don't like focusing on negative things.
No.
I love being super positive.
I think I made a Facebook post about that last night. It's just that you can
check in on that.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah, that's for me. That's a big goal, is to just keep doing this and be able to almost make like a local catalog of reputable walkers and trainers that consumers can be plugged into, so that the general population knows, like, oh yeah, that's whatever this is, and that's where you need to go for dog services, because it doesn't exist right now.
It doesn't.
People literally.
This is something actually Corey and I talk a lot
plug
about.
it into a Google search and hope for the best. And if anything, this podcast is messing me up in that way, because what's happening is the SEO on my website is like phenomenal right now, and I'm still like a one-man band. So like people are reaching out to me, and I'm like, oops, sorry, and it's been actually really
but creating your kind
challenging.
of like your database. And I think that so Corey and I have actually recently created a group on Facebook that with a very similar concept and in context of how can we actually support each other. And I keep finding that in this industry and so many other industries, it ends up being like, I'm better than you. I was like, why can't we just like all kind of suck and also be great? Like, guess what? You're going to be so much better at something that I just don't know. That doesn't make me bad. It just makes me different. And Corey and I have really been working on creating like the Friends of Boston for the Dogs of like who are people in different areas that also have different skills than us. Like maybe we aren't a good fit for you.
Or maybe they just have the same skills, but they're working in a different area.
Exactly,
I
right?
cover a town and a half. That's, I mean,
where are you?
I work in Winchester and West Medford.
Oh goodness.
And I'm by myself. I have someone that helps me a little bit part time, but I've really honed in my expectations and what I do, and I'm very selective, and I haven't brought anybody on yet because I just,
because it's terrifying.
yeah, it's scary for me. So what's going on.
That's a third episode.
Yes. So yeah, but I think, the bottom line is I don't view other people that are doing what I'm doing as competition.
Same.
I view them as colleagues, because I can't walk every dog in the state of Massachusetts. So who else is doing it, and who else is going to shine a light on the professionalism of this industry where we have absolutely no punctuation on it right now?
Yeah.
There's no standards. There's nothing. And we were talking about it earlier, but there's there's room for a multinational corporation to come in and try to take over the industry without really understanding the dynamics of a person handling an animal. So it's for me, this I am a little fish in a big pond, and I realize that, but little things like that, like this, interviews and getting it out there, to me is like, I want the grassroots approach to educating people and providing a voice for people like you guys that really know what you're doing and have a wonderful client base and, just awesome knowledge and a great attitude too, and hard workiness. That's another thing, like Laurie, she, the industry that she grew up in, dog trainers were closed. You couldn't, if you were somebody that wanted to learn from them, there's no way. There's just, it was like you had to get lucky enough to find somebody that would take you on as an apprentice and scoop shit for a year and learn through osmosis and not through actually any instruction, and hope that you would, come out on the other end not dead. Yeah. So, I guess the long-winded answer to your question, but
I just want to thank you. I know how much work this podcast is because you told me about it, and I just want to thank you for committing this and for this being part of your mission. This is, that mission is a beautiful thing to hear, and something that we are beyond on board with, and I think that this is also just such a great medium to spread that information on. And so I want to just thank you for having us on and coming here and putting in all this effort to raise up the industry and raise awareness so that we can all be better. So, thank you for that.
Well, thank you guys. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I think it's, and I don't want to keep talking because I can talk about this all night, but like we truly are better together. Like, why are we? Why are there so many camps, and why are they like? Guess what? I have a lot of people in different camps, and as long as you are accepting that there are other camps, there's different, it's like I love sending people to other people. Guess what? Maybe somebody is not a good fit. And I have really, truly striving, and I have been working very hard to find that industry where I can support other people as much as I support myself. So this is, I think, just an extension of that. So,
yeah.
super pumped to be part of this. And I also feel like I could talk for 10 more hours. So I'm really excited. And I'm just going to, and my last challenge to you is that I can't wait. One day I'm challenging you. I would love to flip the microphone and I would love to interview you.
Interview me? Oh boy.
Yeah. Sorry, it's coming on. It's on. And I will promise to keep my mouth shut as much as I can because I do love to talk. But I think that it'd be really fun to interview the interviewer.
No,
So
thank you guys. This has been awesome. Thanks again.
So yeah, have
you.
a great night. It's night here, but you're probably going to listen to it some other time. But cool.
All right, peace, guys.